So our topic today is about digital banking, and are banks going to get fully digital? Yeah. But let's start from the macro environment and start talking first about the end customer and end user. So what do you think in Bulgaria are the end users, the users, actually reluctant to innovation in the banking industry, or are they prone to it and open?
Well, look, it's always supply and demand, and frankly, I think actually there is plenty of demand, and you see that by the fact that for Revolut, Bulgaria is actually one of the top 10 countries, right, in terms of customer base. So clearly, it's a matter of supply, which hasn't been so far forthcoming from the industry overall. Why? Well, the answer is relatively simple. From perspective of most of innovation has happened in really kind of globally in the fintech space, and fintech space in neo-banking or digital banks requires bigger markets. Bulgaria is just too small, right, to be able to build for a single market, right? Whereas banks have a very comfortable business model, and banks are usually risk averse, lazy, right? So they only start doing something when somebody else starts doing something, and then they start copying, right? And therefore, I think that there is definitely plenty of demand on the market because Bulgarians are no different from Americans, Dutch, Germans, British, it doesn't matter. They're all used to already holding these devices in their hands, right? Using Google, using all the social media, using all the technology tools in order to power their efficient work. And ultimately, kind of all the neobanks or all the digital banks are there to simplify use of financial services, right? So for me, it's definitely demand is there, right? Undoubtedly, right? And again, we see that from Revolut data, for example, but supply is not yet.
Okay. So just so you know, our panel is open to the public, and we'll be expecting your questions if you want to ask some of them in the at the end of it. Okay, so you mentioned a lot about supply, demand, that the banks here are also ready to kind of adapt to it and be innovative. But here I think is a good question we should ask in Bulgaria. Are banks following the trend here to adapt to innovation, or are they creating innovation? What do you think?
I don't think it's a matter of Bulgaria in particular. I think it's general kind of trend between incumbents and kind of challengers, right? Call them fintechs, call them neobanks, doesn't matter. I think globally, right, what you see is definitely the kind of the challengers have given an acceleration mode for the incumbents to change because they've shown them that actually customers are preferring that model of interaction. But I wouldn't say that the banks are very able to change, right?
Okay.
It is a difficult process. Banks been built for hundreds of years, right? And they're relatively slow to move and adapt, just because the way they kind of organized and the kind of people usually more risk averse and risk. Their job is really to risk manage in majority of cases. So that's why they are slow, and they are slow not just in Bulgaria, but they are slow pretty much everywhere else, and that's why the challenger model has been a winning model for many fintechs and neobanks.
Are they adapting as well though? Are they getting faster and faster in the models to react to trends?
Look, there are some great examples globally, right, of banks doing that, right? I mean, if you look at ING, for example, right, or BBVA, right, or Guarantee Bank, there are some very good examples of bank transformations. They take years, right? I mean, if we look at ING case, they probably started at around 2012. It took them about 8-10 years really to get to where they are, where they can really say that they are quite heavy on tech, right? Their original idea was to become a tech company. They're not tech company yet, but they are definitely in that direction. but majority of banks are incapable of that, or are very slow to a party, right? Whether it's management will, understanding, execution capability, just market, it makes things too comfortable for them, depending. But it is very hard, right? It is very hard. To build something from, it's always a question, what is easier, to build something from scratch or to transform something, right? And kind of, and it really all depends on execution capability.
And sometimes partner with a fintech.
No, look, for sure, right? I think that's a general approach in for successful neobanks or challengers, or again tech platforms in general. You don't need to build everything yourselves, right? I mean, you need to create an architecture and infrastructure in such a way that you're able to easily partner, right? And whoever does something better, whether, I don't know, it's digital onboarding or digital signature or data collection or services that, you know, you're not really good at, but kind of somebody else is, and you can simply take them from the cloud and integrate them easily into the customer journey. You shouldn't try to do it. And actually, the largest companies don't even do it. I mean, even Google's and Facebook's and so on and so on. I mean, they don't develop everything themselves, right? They really focus on their core product, and if there's any good technology for them to embed, they'll do that, right? If it's shorter route to market.
Okay, but now I want to get back again into the customer perspective a bit.
Sure.
So I'm also a customer of my bank on a daily basis, and
Which
I.
bank?
Haha.
GDPR question.
And I use my app, my app on the phone of the bank every single day, all the time, and I pay all my utility bills, you know, on the bankers who like queues nowadays, yeah. And there I'm charged a tiny amount of a fee every time I do a transaction for my utility fees. But I know that your bank does free daily banking. And my question there as a customer is, first, okay, why am I not there? Second, how does
Why
that...
are you not there? That's a question, but I should be asking you.
And second, how does that prove your business rationale? I mean, can you explain that?
Look, I think that daily banking services, whether it's utility payments, current accounts, card, instant payments, Blink or SEPA Instant, I think these are kind of basic banking tools, which frankly both should be provided for free, right? And they are just, you know, a basic need that the customers must have really in order to kind of to be part of kind of economic life cycle. But also, I truly believe that there is no really kind of major competition there, that you should be competing on price. If you are running modern technology, in fact, the cost to serve is extremely low, right? And I don't think that you should be monetizing these services, right? Whatever you bring extra, right? And people can choose either through subscription or through other tools how to monetize it as a business. But this one is becoming a commodity. It is, in fact, it is already a commodity. In majority of the world, right? In majority of the world, you will not be charged for an account. You will not be charged to carry a card. You will not be charged to pay utilities, right? And you won't be charged, again, in majority of cases for small value payments. Now, in Bulgaria, it happens so that banks, look, being a bank, I don't want to say being greedy, right? But they have, I believe that they are charging customers for something that they shouldn't be charged. That's TBI's philosophy, and that's why we believe that basic daily banking should be for free, right? And that's exactly what we offer.
Okay, but what you said just about a minute ago, you said about the cost of innovation. So you're saying that the cost of innovation is actually low.
I'm saying that once you've built a modern technology in order to run daily banking services, the cost of serving a customer is actually quite low, right? And if you have other ways which are core to your business, where you actually have a competitive advantage. Because again, daily banking, what's the difference between one current account and another current account? One plastic card or virtual card and another. There's really one payment, you pay from one account by Blink or by another. There's no real difference, right? I mean, you don't feel any difference. It's a commodity. It's a standardized commodity today, right? But then extra features that you bring on top, right? I don't know, subscription management, personal finance management, credit tools, right, etc., etc., etc. These are the tools already that are differentiated, right, depending on each organization, right? and this is where you should be charging. But for the commodities, I don't think that you can charge anymore, frankly. And I think very soon they will be free everywhere. Right?
Okay.
Or they should be free everywhere.
So you believe that actually banking will become fully digital at the end of this road?
Absolutely. Look, I think banking is one of those industries that is at the forefront of digitalization, again, globally, right? We already see examples of really kind of banks of the future which are super digital, frankly. And I think eventually, we don't need kind of people to actually run that infrastructure eventually, right? Not right now, but definitely that all banks will be digital, right? Because, I mean, you're not going to be writing. You're not writing on paper, or people are not going to the branches like to make payments like they used to, and so on. And over the years, everything will be done digitally. The question is whether it will be, really kind of completely digital without any humans, right? I think that's some time away, but eventually, I think financial industry will be very, very, very thin on the roles that are currently employed in banks.
All right.
There will be different roles, right? But they won't be the same roles.
Okay. And I think we should move to the question of the audience, because we have quite a few. I'm seeing them here. So let's start with them, yeah?
With pleasure.
Okay. It seems in Bulgaria, physical branches of banks still matter. How should a sexy branch look like?
They do matter, and Bulgaria, Romania, and Greece, in generally, kind of, our part of the world, Europe-wise, is one of the lowest digital services penetration. It's growing, right? But we still have some way to go. So there's still a lot of customers which are would prefer to go to a branch. We call them actually customer service centers, because we believe that one of the key roles of those service centers is actually to educate, right, the customers how to use digital services, so they don't need to waste their time. Because at the end of the day, I think we're all competing to save customers time, right? And whoever will make any service more convenient and more efficient, right, ultimately saves time to the consumer. And going to the branch is one of those services that can be clearly taken out, but it takes time to educate the customers, right? So from our perspective, we believe that it's still important. How should they be? Well, look, I mean, they should be nice, clean, tidy, and friendly, right? That at the end of the day, you can put as many screens inside and as many robots and so on and so on. But at the end of the day, I think that people are migrating very fast to web and mobile, mainly mobile, and these locations would still be necessary for next 5, 6, 7, maybe up to 10 years. After that, I think, banks will have a more as kind of for marketing purposes rather than anything else.
Yeah. And I'm thinking now in the shoes of me running my own company. When I go to a branch and I have to sign a lot of documents, there's so many documents that you have to sign for so many things. And maybe if we try to digitalize here a bit, we can reduce a bit the paper usage even. Yeah.
Look, I don't know. Look, we offer paper to the customers, but every process can be digital, right? We offer them only because sometimes, again, back to the kind of still the lower level of digitalization, people prefer not to receive it on their email, but to have it at hand, right? So we still do offer it, but we really rather not just because of the cost or ESG, right, which is now kind of right, but frankly, because kind of, look, today pretty much everybody has an email.
Yeah, right? And I saw a connected question to this. And so it's like, is there any change in customer behavior that you observed and that surprised you and your company?
Surprised me? Look, it's, that question catches me out. I need to think a little bit about it. But I wouldn't say that much surprised me, because, again, kind of with all the honesty, we look very wide at the world and what's happening in our industry in particular. So we see a lot of kind of examples which are a little bit ahead of what is happening in Southeast Europe. Therefore, I wouldn't say that we are maybe majorly surprised by anything, right? Because those trends, it's ultimately it's like a train going one direction, right? So there is a little bit of what some large venture capitalists call geographical arbitrage. And I think for everybody here, it's very visible and clear. And actually, that's the opportunity of people in business to take advantage of it, geographical arbitrage, to see what works, to adapt it to locality, and to execute well, right? And I think that many companies are actually doing exactly that.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about in Bulgaria in particular. Again, same true in in our business in Greece or in Romania, right? I mean that's just you. The Northern Europe also, Nordics, for example, they're just much more digital due to kind of government innovation, which was driving that. Baltics, another great example, right? Where you have basically digital government, right? So there are already a lot of great examples, right, around the world.
Yeah, and I see this interesting question here. So how important is the brand in banking?
Huge.
Isn't it the same like clothing? Everybody sells almost the same thing, say a sweater, but the Gucci one is times more expensive than the Zara's.
Look, brand is very important in finance, right? Because it still finances a lot about trust, right? So people need to be comfortable with brand, and here I truly believe that it's not kind of I'm often asked, what if what will you do? How will you compete with Revolut or something? Look, it's not finance industry on one side is has a protection of a regulator, so regulators don't like big concentrations in any case, but also consumers. Somebody likes blue, somebody likes green, somebody likes red. So brand and what stands behind the brand and the values that companies advocating and proving, right, in reality are very important. So I've seen really kind of great examples of building brands. I've seen great examples of destroying value of a brand, right? But I think in finance industry, brand is very important. It used to be even more important, frankly, right? Because now kind of customers, especially younger generations, are much easier to switch than before. Before it was brand was almost everything, right? And that's why you saw these, huge branches of banks, kind of, expensive, beautiful, right? Because people needed to feel that comfort and security and trust and, in a brand. But over the last decade, it weakened, right? So I think that people now care much more, and I make that example very often about Nikes when they care about Barclays, right? I mean, that's just, again, that's kind of that's a new generation, but there will be new brands, right? That will be very strong and that will offer great value for them in terms of proposition, and we see that already. Let's say an example of Klarna. For younger generation, once Klarna, eventually gets to either buys or builds kind of actually a banking component, right, to service their customers their daily banking needs and all the other needs except just buy now, pay later. I think that it's going to be a super strong brand. So you can do it right. It's not easy, but it is still important.
And here I see actually, I think that will be the last question from the audience, because then I have an extra one from my side for the end. I have to ask you that. But the last question from the audience is about AI. We talk about AI lately, but they are asking, so about TBI. Do you implement any AI or do you plan to implement it? What's your strategy on AI?
So first of all, we've been using AI for already many years in different parts of the business. We have budgets allocated in teams for AI. We have budgets for experiments. We have budgets for tools. Frankly, we don't really look anymore at any infrastructure components which are not AI powered in majority of cases. Again, look, AI has become a huge buzzword obviously now, and everybody kind of uses it a lot for marketing. There are multiple use cases from customer service, to compliance, to writing code, right, to data analytics, etc., in finance industry, in banking, and I think it's again the direction is only one, right? You have a certain you have a certain, everybody here has a certain capacity. Let's say these devices have certain capacity, right? That thing just has a much bigger capacity, which is constantly growing, right? And ultimately, if you're not utilizing it for any of tasks or solutions, you are slower, right? So I think everybody will be wrong not to kind of not to look for ways how to use it. And actually, a lot of already tools use it one way or another, right? And then some just are more advanced, and there's more data already that are trained on, some less.
Yeah, and I think that's something that quite a few people are missing lately from the buzz that you mentioned, the buzzword about it.
It's
That
buzz,
AI has been around for some years, yeah, and now it's generative AI which is in the focus, yeah, and so yeah, they've been around in banking for some time, and I think it would continue to grow and
It will
become
continue.
more and more, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. And my last question to you is connected to your first thing you said. You mentioned Revolut in the beginning, and I want to ask you, is there going to be a Bulgarian Revolut?
Of course. TBI. Look, ultimately, we've done a lot of great things. I don't think we're perfect. I never think anything's perfect, to be honest. I always think it can be better and better. And we're learning constantly, right? And I think that actually, the overall fintech story was first local, and a few managed to reach that escape velocity, like Klarna, like Revolut, and go more global. But I think once you go global, actually there becomes a major need of hyper-local, right? And what you end up seeing is that a lot of national or regional challengers are beginning to appear, beginning to be actually extremely successful. And it's very difficult to run a global company like Revolut and try to know every market, be integrated with local payment rails, local utilities. Pay your utilities from Revolut. Good luck to you, right? Or pay in Blink, right? I mean, good luck to you, right? Or have offer from Zara or local Technomarket or local merchants, right? Where actually kind of you understand, you've seen, you tried. So this is actually the space that TBI is really gunning for, right? We are building a regional challenger bank, right? Because the markets that we operate are Bulgaria, Romania, and Greece, right? That's already big enough, to be able to build a challenger bank, right? On one market alone, it would be harder to do that, right? Just economics don't work as well. On a market of 37 million people, it's already possible, and ultimately we're learning from and seeing what these guys do, right? Or done. Right, because actually they are now become much slower, right? Because as you reach that global scale, it becomes much more difficult actually to operate the business, right? And hyper local, I think, is a winning model for challenger banks as long as the market is big enough.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I think that's a great place to stop. And thank you for this discussion and for the great questions from the audience. Thank you.
No, thank you very much.